In 2020, a pre-harvest weed control and desiccant study for flax was developed and led by Chris Hazoffel with the Indian Head Agricultural Research Foundation. Wayne Thompson and Michelle Beath from the Saskatchewan Flax Development Commission provided technical support. This video is based on the report submitted to the ministry's ADOPT program, which provided funding for this project. The 3 agri-arm locations which participated in this study were Indian Head, Yorkton, and Swift Current. The trial results were very similar between Yorkton and Indian Head, where significant crop dry-down differences occurred between desiccation products. At Swift Current, no significant differences between products were detected, as all plots dried down rapidly due to hot, dry conditions in late summer. For this reason, we won't be covering all the trial results from Swift Current, but it is noteworthy that desiccation with herbicides may not provide an agronomic benefit depending on environmental conditions. I should also mention that while products used in this demonstration are registered in Saskatchewan, their use may restrict options for grain selling. Contact your grain buyer to determine if application of late-season chemical to your flax crop will be a market concern. There will be more on this at the end of the video. So the trial was designed to compare the dry down provided by Roundup alone, Roundup plus heat, and Reglone against an untreated check. This was evaluated on the flax varieties CDC Bethune and CDC Glass. In fairness, desiccation using Roundup is relatively slow, but pre-harvest applications with Roundup provide excellent perennial weed control. Tank mixing Roundup with heat is recommended to accelerate desiccation while also maintaining control of perennial weeds. Reglone alone provides the best desiccation but will not provide adequate control of perennial weeds. As a contact herbicide, it only provides top growth control and is not translocated into the roots like Roundup or other glyphosate products. Now let's turn it over to Mike and we will see how well these products worked in the field.
Thanks, Heather. These are the visual ratings of crop dry down for each desiccation treatment averaged over flax variety using a scale from 1 to 9. A rating of 1 indicates almost all stems are grass green, and a rating of 9 would indicate all stems are medium to dark brown and very dry. These ratings were taken at 0, 7, and 14 days after application, with Indian Head adding an extra observation at 4 days. Desiccants were applied at approximately 75% brown boll stage, which occurred on August 18th at Yorkton and August 21st at Indian Head. The brown line of each figure is the untreated check, indicating a slow rate of dry down relative to the desiccated plots. Diquat, otherwise known as Reglone, is the purple line, indicating the fastest dry down of all products. The next best dry down combination is Roundup plus heat, represented by the gray line, and then Roundup alone, as indicated by the green line. So the relative ability of products to dry down the crop turned out as expected. However, one thing is a little strange at the Yorkton site. It's the rating curve for the untreated check. One would expect the dry down rating to increase with time, like it does at Indian Head. This difference might be subjective, but I think the stems might actually be greening up. While the bolls continued to dry down up top, the lower parts of the plants may have revived a little after our drought was ended by some late season rainfall. In this situation, the desiccants were really of great value, even with just Roundup. Let's look at some of the pictures from Yorkton to show you what I mean. These pictures from Yorkton were taken shortly after harvest, which was 18 days after desiccation. The cluster of 4 pictures on the left are the 4 reps for CDC Bethune, and the cluster on the right is for CDC Glass. You can see some of the stems are quite green, even though the bolls were ripe enough to thresh. Overall, CDC Glass was a little greener, so I'm going to make product comparisons using this variety. Let's just move the check for Glass to the left here. Even Roundup alone looks to have done a pretty good job because it has prevented the plants from recovering from the drought. From these pictures, it's hard to see any differences when heat was added to the Roundup, or between Roundup alone versus Reglone. However, let's have a look at the seed and stem moisture taken at harvest from the Yorkton and Indian Head sites. Here are the main effects of variety and desiccation treatment on seed moisture recorded at harvest. For reference, 10% seed moisture is considered dry. So at harvest, grain was quite dry at Indian Head and tough at Yorkton. Overall, there were no differences between varieties at either Yorkton or Indian Head. However, the use of desiccation did significantly lower grain moisture at harvest for both sites. At Indian Head, Roundup alone and Roundup plus heat significantly reduced seed moisture relative to the untreated check, and Reglone significantly reduced seed moisture compared to any other treatment. A similar pattern was observed at Yorkton. However, differences between desiccation products were not detected. This table shows the main effects of variety and desiccation treatment on the percent stem moisture at harvest. CDC Bethune had a higher stem moisture content at all sites, but the difference was only significant at Indian Head. At Indian Head, Roundup alone significantly reduced stem moisture compared to the untreated control. The addition of heat to Roundup significantly reduced stem moisture more, and Reglone significantly reduced stem moisture the most. A very similar pattern was followed at Yorkton. At Swift Current, stem moisture content was already low at harvest for the untreated control due to warm and dry conditions near harvest. However, the application of Reglone did result in the lowest stem moisture at this site, even though differences were not statistically significant. Here we have the main effects for seed yield. CDC glass yielded significantly more than CDC Bethune at Indian Head and Yorkton. Varieties did not differ at Swift Current. Yield did not significantly differ between any of the desiccation treatments at any of the locations, which should be expected, provided desiccation products were not applied too early.
So, the good news is we have desiccation products that increase dry down of a flax crop. In this study, Reglone was the best for drying down the crop, but remember, it doesn't provide any long-term control of perennial weeds. Crop regrowth can also be a problem under prolonged cool, wet conditions with Reglone, but that wasn't an issue in this study. Applying Reglone can also make it more difficult to control perennial weeds later with a post-harvest application of glyphosate due to top growth removal by the Reglone. To avoid this, glyphosate could be applied first, followed by Reglone a few days later, to allow time for the glyphosate to translocate into the roots. In this study, Roundup plus heat was the next best thing for crop dry down, followed by Roundup alone, and of course both these options provide perennial weed control. The bad news is while we have options for desiccating flax, not all end users will accept the flax treated with a desiccant. Flax, in conjunction with Manitoba Flax and the Flax Council of Canada, have developed a fact sheet covering this topic, but it's important to be aware of the latest restrictions, because it's a constantly evolving situation. Check with your grain buyer before deciding to desiccate.